What's up? All right, verse of the day today comes from Galatians 2, 19 and 20. Let me read to you from my Bible here. But first, some context. Paul is writing to the Galatians, and apparently the Galatians have fallen back into this idea of the traditional Judaism stuff, which is that, instead of following Jesus, they have, even though Jesus by this point has come, he lived on earth, he did his ministry, he was crucified and rose again. There's a lot of stuff that's happened since then. This is probably a few decades later. Christianity is spreading, but the Jews are confusing people, the Gentiles, which are people that have, it's like you and me, we're Gentiles, we're not Jewish people, generally, for the most part. So they're confusing these new believers by telling them, hey, even though you believe in Jesus Christ, you still have to follow all the Jewish traditions, which is like 600 laws and, all this stuff that Jesus was very clear about that was not important anymore. Jesus said, I fulfilled the law and now it's over, like it's done. Like I have brought it to its end, and now there's a new law, and that's the law of love. It's a new covenant, Jesus said. So, Paul has taught them this, the truth about Jesus and following him. But now, he's traveling other places, and these people in Galatia, this new church in Galatia, is getting, other teachers coming in, and they're Jews, and they're confusing and these Gentiles from Galatia and telling them, hey, you got to follow all the Jewish traditions too. You can't just believe in Jesus. And Paul is like, no, don't listen to the Jewish people. We don't have to follow the law. So here's this verse for us today. He says, okay. For through the law, I died to the law. This is Paul talking. For through the law, I died to the law so that I might live for God. Okay? So we don't live for the law. We're not living to follow the rules, okay, of Jewish tradition or the 10 Commandments or a list of rules your parents give you or whatever else. Like, that's not what Christianity is about. Paul's saying here, I died to the law, which means that the law is like, I'm done with the law. I'm done with law because the law is not life-giving. So he says, for through the law, I died to the law so that I might live for God. Okay, that's verse 19. So if you're going to live for God, that means you don't live for the rules. Okay, verse 20. This is one of my favorites. I have been crucified. Okay, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. So here's this powerful picture that Paul is painting here. He's basically saying, listen, me, my old life, my sinful life, I have been crucified with Christ. That means that, my sin was nailed to the tree with Jesus. My desires and my sinful nature has been nailed to the cross with Jesus. I've been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live. But instead of me, instead of my sinful desires, my sin nature, Christ lives in me. Okay, there's a lot there to think about. Think about this. We oftentimes find it much easier to follow a list of rules than to follow Jesus, because the list of rules is obvious, right? Our parents say we can't do this, or society says we can't do that, or we should do this, or whatever, and the church says, or your pastor says, thankfully not our pastor at Village Church, but there's a lot of pastors out there that say, hey, you got to do this, and you can't do that, and you have to do this, and you shouldn't do this, and da-da-da-da, and they give you all these rules to follow. And Paul says, no. It's not about following the rules. Christianity and following Jesus is not about following the rules, whosever rules they are. He says, that all is dead, and my sin and my sinful desires have been crucified with Christ, and that's dead. Okay, I no longer live. Instead of me, Christ lives in me. And this is an amazing hope that we have, that we can just live a life of surrender and say, instead of rules, instead of following the rules, I'm just going to follow Jesus. And every day, wherever Jesus leads me, that's where I'm going to go. Not going to worry about the list of rules my pastor gives, or my Sunday school teacher gives me, or my parents give me, or whatever else. And I'm not saying disobey your parents, people. Listen to your parents. But you're not going to be a good Christian or a bad Christian depending on whether or not you break a rule or follow a rule. The law this is not what Christianity is about. Christianity is about following Jesus. Now, Christianity also says honor your parents, honor your mother and your father. Okay, please do not take that away from this devotion. Daniel says we don't have to listen to our parents. No. That's not what I'm saying. However, what I'm saying is follow Jesus. Okay? Follow Christ. Forget about the list of rules. That's not what this is about. But every day, pray, seek Him, lay yourself down, surrender to Jesus, and let Him lead you and guide you, okay? That's the point there. Okay, let me pray. Jesus, I pray that we would just live a life of surrender to you. God, that we would just lay ourselves down, that we would embrace the idea that we are crucified with you, that our sin nature is gone, and that, God, you have replaced it with your life, that you live now inside of us, and that we can just follow you and follow your leading each and every day. In your name I pray. Amen. Bye.